Furious gunfire ripped across the fiery combat zone. A helicopter plunged, a dark plume of smoke staining the air. Amongst the twisted metal, a young mechanic toiled quietly on a broken rotor blade, blood trickling from her shoulder, her gaze unyielding as steel. When the SEAL Admiral walked up with a weary smile and asked, "What's your code name, kid?" she softly answered, "Iron Raven." The whole Special Forces crew fell silent. They knew that name. It belonged to a hero, gone missing in the Kessan mission years ago. A phantom pilot the military had officially called dead. Yet here she was, wrench in hand, blood on her clothes, breathing. The outpost trembled from incoming mortar shells. Sand lashed the landing strip as another blast rattled the edge of their base. Admiral Ryan Steele held his radio tight to his ear, trying to block out the wild noise. 3 of his SEAL groups were trapped 40 kilometers to the east, and their chance for rescue was quickly fading. "Sir, we've already lost 2 aircraft." Lieutenant Commander Derek Wall yelled over the thunder of another incoming shell. The reserve Blackhawk had taken metal fragments to its tail rotor. "We have only 1 working helicopter left." Ryan's jaw clenched. A single chopper couldn't pull 30 trained soldiers from a dangerous area. The numbers were stark and clear. He looked over the vehicle area where mechanics rushed to save broken gear while under attack. Most were hiding. One wasn't. A woman in oil-stained combat clothes worked under the damaged Blackhawk. Her actions were exact, even with the blast. She didn't even twitch when rubble fell 10 meters from her. Her concentration was complete, hands working with the sureness of someone who had done this 1,000 times in harder situations. "Who is that?" Ryan asked. Walsh followed his stare. "Quinn. Ava Quinn. She's a contract mechanic, keeps to herself, but she's the best repairer we have. She could put together an engine with her eyes closed." Ryan watched her for another moment. There was something about her efficient motions, the way she seemed to know what the aircraft needed even before finding the issue. She reminded him of skilled combat pilots he'd known, the very best. He walked across the landing strip as another mortar shell screamed above them. Ava didn't glance up. Her hands were deep inside the engine cover, fingers tracing fluid lines with careful exactness. "How bad is it?" Ryan asked. "Fuel line damaged. Fluid tank broken. The rear rotor part needs to be fully swapped out." Her voice was steady. "Expert. 30 minutes if I have the pieces. 45 if I must make do." "We don't have 30 minutes. Then you won't have a helicopter." She pulled her head from the engine area. Their eyes met for the first time. Hers were gray, as chilling as winter metal. "Do you want it quick or do you want it correct, Admiral?" Ryan took her in. Mid-30s, perhaps. Lean build, efficient movements. Scars on her hands that weren't from fixing things. A toughness in her eyes that told of hardships witnessed and overcome. "Were you in the military? Does it make a difference?" She went back to the engine. "Walsh," Ryan barked into his radio. "Get Quinn whatever pieces she needs. Take them from the broken choppers if you must." Ava's hands stopped for a tiny moment. "Smart. The left Blackhawk still has its fluid system untouched. I'll need 2 people in 20 minutes. You have 15 minutes and 1 person." She wiped grease from her brow with the back of her hand, leaving a dark mark. "Then stay out of my way, sir." Ryan caught himself grinning. Despite the danger, he had led Navy SEALs for 20 years, working with the finest soldiers globally. This mechanic carried that same sharp edge, a complete trust in herself forged by facing danger again and again. The next quarter hour passed in a rush of focused speed. Ava guided Walsh and a young corporal with the exactness of a doctor asking for surgical tools. She used no extra words. Wrench, socket, hose, clamp. Every tool landed in her hand right when it was wanted. Ryan observed her, picking up on small things. How she checked each link twice. The way she tilted her head to hear the engine's pulse. The tiny habit she did before shutting the engine cover. 3 taps on the turbine casing. Like a silent blessing. "Start it up," Ava said, backing away. The Blackhawk's engines roared to life, turbines spinning up to full power. The main blades began to turn, even and strong. Ava stood still, eyes shut, listening intently. Ryan saw her lips twitch, counting something. After 30 seconds she opened her eyes and gave a nod. You're all set. She'll fly for 6 hours before that quick fluid repair needs checking. Don't push her past max power, and stay below 3,000 meters. The fix won't hold in thin air. How do you know? Ryan began. Because I know. She grabbed her tool bag. Your men are waiting, Admiral. The rescue flight took off half an hour later. Ryan rode in the passenger area, watching the desert unroll beneath them. The mission was standard: quick drop-off, make the landing zone safe, pull out the teams. They'd done it 100 times, but Standard didn't plan for the rocket that shot from a canyon wall. The pilot yanked the controls sharply left. The Blackhawk tilted, barely missing the missile, but that quick move sent them right into ground fire. Bullets clanged off the helicopter's body. One shot tore through the passenger space, mere inches from Ryan's head. Taking fire. Many shooters. The pilot's voice buzzed through the speaker. Ryan gripped his gun, searching the ground. This wasn't luck. They'd flown into a planned trap. Someone knew their route. We need to turn back. The co-pilot yelled. No, Ryan snapped. Those groups are counting on this aircraft. Keep going. The Blackhawk shook as more bullets struck home. Alert lights flashed over the control panel. Ryan's gut tightened as he saw the problem. They were losing fluid pressure. Ava's fix was giving out. We're spilling fluid quickly, the pilot reported, his voice strained. I'm losing control of the tail rotor. Ryan figured it out at once. They could try to push onto the pickup spot and risk a huge crash over enemy lands, or they could turn back now and leave 3 SEAL groups behind. How long until it completely breaks? He demanded. Minutes, perhaps even less. The helicopter suddenly swerved, its nose veering right as the pilot struggled to steer. Through the front window, Ryan saw their base far off. They might reach it, just barely. Get us down now. The pilot urged the failing Blackhawk toward the base, battling the controls each moment. They arrived hard and fast, the blades screeching. The landing was a planned crash, the skids hitting the tarmac so hard they cracked the support bars. Ryan was out before the rotors even stopped, running for the vehicle area. He found Ava right where he'd last seen her, welding a brace onto another broken aircraft. We were hit, he said at once. Your repair didn't hold. Ava switched off the torch and raised her welding shield. Did you go above 3,000 meters? No. Did you push past maximum engine speed? No. Then you were struck in the fluid line again, and you're faulting my work. She put down the torch. Show me. They walked to the broken Blackhawk. Ava climbed inside the engine. Her actions were smooth even as darkness deepened. Ryan watched her follow the fluid system, fingers tracing hoses, checking every link. Right here. She pointed to a tiny hole. A 7.62 bullet went straight through. Missed your fix by 6 inches. Your repair is still solid. She jumped down from the aircraft, looking him in the eye. I don't do careless work, Admiral. Ryan felt a flush spread across his face. He had doubted her skill based on a guess, not on facts. Among our teams, that kind of thought gets people killed. My apologies, he said. Can you mend? Yes. How long? 2 hours, maybe 3. She picked up her tools. But you don't have 3 hours, do you? No. Ryan glanced at his watch. I have 35 men depending on a rescue that should have happened an hour ago. Every minute we wait, our chance shrinks. Ava was quiet for a moment, her gray eyes looking far away. Then she looked past him toward the airstrip where 2 more Blackhawks sat, both broken, both officially out of service. The aircraft on pad 3, she said. The one with a split main rotor pole. How severely did they judge the harm? Serious risk of structure collapse. Flight Command took it out of action. Flight Command doesn't know what critical truly means. Ava began walking toward pad 3. I spent 2 hours yesterday strengthening that pole with a titanium cover. She will Flight Command can say whatever they like from their cooled office. Ava snapped, turning to face him. I'm the one who put that aircraft back together from spare parts. I'm the one who checked every join, every screw, every weak spot. She will fly. The complete certainty in her tone made Ryan stop. This wasn't boasting. This was deep, unmoving knowledge. Are you willing to risk your life on that? He asked. I already did yesterday. I flew her for 5 hours testing her. Ava met his gaze. The real question is, do you trust me, Admiral? Ryan made up his mind. Get her ready. We take off in 20 minutes. 15, Ava corrected. And I'm coming with you. No, this is a fighting mission, and if that pole breaks in the air, you'll need someone who can improvise a fix before you hit the ground. She moved close. I don't follow your commands, Admiral. I'm a hired expert. I fly with my aircraft. Or they don't fly at all. Ryan wanted to argue. Rules, procedures, plain logic. All of it said she shouldn't be on this mission. But he'd learned ages ago that sometimes the rules had to stretch. The teams required this rescue. Ava knew this helicopter better than anyone. Fine, but you follow my commands in the combat zone. Agreed. She turned toward the helicopter, then stopped. You might want to tell your lead crewman to ignore the shake in the rear part between 4,000 and 6,000 feet. It's normal for this aircraft. How do you know that? Ava didn't reply. She simply climbed into the pilot's seat and began the pre-flight check. 20 minutes later they were flying. Ryan sat in the head crewman's spot, watching Ava move through the inside of the helicopter as if she belonged there. She checked weapon points, tested the lift, looked at all connections, all without being told. The pilot, Chief Warrant Officer Jake Brennan, kept looking back at her with a mix of wonder and worry. She really knows her stuff, sir, he said through the speaker. More than she shows, Ryan agreed. They flew low and fast, gliding over the desert ground to stay hidden from radar. The sun was going down, coloring the sand in hues of copper and gold, lovely and perilous. Somewhere ahead, his groups were dug in, waiting. The trap sprung without a sound. Glowing bullets tore through the dimming light. The Blackhawk lurched as bullets pounded the body. Brennan forced the helicopter into a sharp dodging turn, testing the aircraft's quickness to its edge. Many gunmen. 3 o'clock, the co-pilot yelled. Ryan fired back through the open doorway, his rifle spitting controlled bursts. Next to him, Ava had grabbed an extra M4 and was shooting with skilled accuracy. Not just spraying bullets, but aiming, firing like someone who had done this many times. The Blackhawk shook. A loud alert shrieked in the cockpit. Fluid pressure was falling. Brennan wrestled the controls. I'm losing her. Ryan's blood turned to ice. Not this again. Not twice in a single day. Ava dropped her gun and darted toward the cockpit. Let me see the dials. Who the heck? Brennan began. Show her, Ryan ordered. Ava leaned over the main panel, quickly checking the reading. Her eyes moved with expert speed, taking in details, figuring things out, making a choice. It's not the fluid system, she said. You have a broken control rod. You're battling parts that won't move. She turned to Ryan. I can bypass it, but I need to get to the tail part. In the air, that's not possible. No, it's risky. There's a difference. She was already moving, pulling tools from her bag. Keep her as steady as you can. I need 3 minutes. Before Ryan could stop her, Ava clipped a safety belt to the cargo hook and climbed out onto the outside ladder. The wind ripped at her, the ground speeding by below at 20 knots. She didn't pause. Ryan hooked his own harness and followed her to the door, staying alert. Ava moved along the outside of the helicopter with unbelievable certainty, her feet finding grip on small steps most pilots never knew were there. She reached the tail part and held herself firm against the upright fin. Tools appeared in her hand. She worked by feel in the fading light, fingers tracing wires and control bars. A sharp metallic crack echoed over the rotor's noise. Ava's hand moved incredibly fast, grabbing a snapped cable before it could fly up. She pulled a spare connector from her vest, who carries extra parts into a fight, and began joining the cable. Brennan, she yelled into her radio. When I say now, try the left foot pedal. Just light pressure. Understood. Now. The helicopter's tail moved a little. Ava watched the cable tightness, made a tiny change and fastened the link with wire. Try full control. Slowly. The Blackhawk responded, its tail returning to normal. Brennan's cheer of relief sounded through the speaker. Ava pulled herself back inside. Her face was red from effort and wind. She unclipped her belt and went back to her spot as if nothing had occurred. Ryan stared at her. Where did you learn to do that? You, she said simply. That's a lie. She met his eyes for a long moment. A silent understanding, a shared nod passed between them. What's your code name, kid? Ryan asked. It was meant as a joke, a way to ease the pressure. Soldiers always had code names. Hired workers didn't. Ava's face stayed calm, but something in her eyes changed, grew harder. Iron Raven. The words hung heavy, like a solid thing in the air. In the cockpit, Brennan's hands twitched on the controls. The co-pilot spun around, his face white. Even through the speaker, Ryan could hear the sharp gasp. Iron Raven. That name belonged to a legend, a spooky tale, whispered in briefing rooms and over drinks. The pilot who had flown missions thought to be impossible during the secret operations in Kasan. The flyer who had done moves that changed how battles were fought. The hero whose last mission had ended in flames and smoke, with no body ever found. Iron Raven, killed in battle, 8 years ago. Ryan's mind sped, linking facts he should have noticed sooner. The way she moved in the helicopter, her understanding of fighting plans, the marks on her hands, not from tools but from flying gloves and escape systems. You're dead, he said softly. Yes, Ava. Iron Raven checked her rifle. It's very handy being dead. No forms to fill, no power games, just the job. Why are you here? She was quiet for a long moment, her eyes looking far away. Because 35 of your men are about to die if we don't get to them in the next 10 minutes. And because I'm tired of being dead. Ryan wanted to ask more. He needed to ask more. But the landing zone was nearing fast, and there was no time. We finish this first, he said. Then you tell me everything. Ava nodded once. Deal. The rescue went smoothly. They landed hard at the zone, took on 35 worn-out SEALs, and pulled out while taking fire. The Blackhawk took more hits, but Ava kept the aircraft flying with a mix of expert skill and what seemed like dark magic using tape and wire. They reached base as deep night fell. The SEALs staggered out, dirty and thankful. Several paused to look at Ava with something like wonder in their eyes. News had already spread. Iron Raven was living. Ryan found her in the repair shed an hour later. She was back under a helicopter, of course. Always busy. We need to speak. No, we don't. She didn't look at him. You got your people out. I did my work. We're finished. The hell we are. Ryan pulled a rolling seat. 8 years ago this Saturday, Captain Natalie Corvus flew her last mission. Codename Iron Raven. The military claimed she died when her F-18 was shot down over enemy lands during Operation Crimson Knife. They gave her a Medal of Honor after her death. Ava's hands stopped, but there was never a body, Ryan went on. The crash site was too dangerous to examine. The wreckage burned for 3 days, so they called her killed in action and moved on. He leaned forward. Except you didn't die, did you? You lived. And for 8 years you've been hiding as a hired mechanic called Ava Quinn. Silence. Why? Ryan asked, simply. Ava pulled herself out from under the helicopter. Her face was smudged with grease and weariness. She took a rag, cleaning her hands with careful, practiced moves. Have you ever been betrayed by your own side, Admiral? The question struck Ryan harder than he thought it would. Once. Iraq, someone in our command structure was giving information to the enemy. It cost us 12 good men before we found out. Then you get it. Ava threw the rag away. I didn't crash. I was shot down by an American missile. The words hung in the air like gunpowder smoke. That can't be true, Ryan said. The inquiry was a lie. Ava's voice was calm. Absolutely. I was flying air cover during a secret mission to pull out 3 agency contractors and 2 Pentagon experts from a situation that had gone wrong. Someone wanted them gone. The simplest way to kill them was to shoot down their ride. So they shot down an F-18 with their own forces on board. She corrected herself. They shot down an F-18 with people they considered replaceable on board. A pilot who asked too many questions. Hired workers with no close family. Experts who had seen things they shouldn't have. Ava met his gaze. I saw the missile launch from our own side. I had 2 seconds to react. Not enough time to save the Osprey I was guiding. just enough time to eject before my aircraft became scattered metal. Ryan felt a chill despite the desert warmth. And you lived? I lived. I landed in enemy land with a broken leg and 3 cracked ribs. It took me 4 days to crawl to our side. She let out a laugh, but no joy was in it. When I finally reached out, I learned I was already officially killed in action, mission secret. The event was covered up under national security rules. You could have revealed them, gone to Congress. The news. With what evidence? Ava shook her head. I was a phantom. My death was already on record. Any claim I made would have been brushed off as trauma or worse. And the people who ordered that attack, they had high-ranking friends and political support. She met his eyes. So I stayed dead, safer that way. For 8 years. Ava stood, picking up her tool. I changed my name, got credentials as a hired worker, and kept doing what I do best. Fixing things, keeping aircraft flying, keeping pilots safe. Her voice lowered. Atonement, perhaps, for not being quick enough to warn that osprey. Ryan absorbed it. The separate parts clicked into place with stark clarity. A pilot with battle experience vanishing into the hired workforce. A mechanic with military strategy knowledge she shouldn't possess. A phantom hiding openly, atoning for a betrayal she couldn't stop. What made you change? He asked. Why show yourself now? Ava was silent for a long moment. Then she took something from her pocket. A dog tag. Old and marked. Captain Marcus Corvus. She read. My brother. Last known to be in the same area where your groups were working tonight. She looked up. He's why I took this job. The reason I'm here. Secret talks suggest he's still alive. Held by the same group that's been attacking our supply lines. And you believe we can get him out? I think you're the only one who can. You have the power, the resources, the groups. Her gray eyes were cold as steel. And now you have a reason. Because I know something about that missile that shot me down. I know who gave the order. I know why. Ryan leaned back, his mind already speeding through mission plans and political fallout. This is beyond my rank. No, Ava said softly. This is exactly your rank. You're a SEAL Admiral. You're meant to protect soldiers. Well, Marcus is a soldier, and he's been rotting in a jail cell for 8 years. Because the same people who erased him on paper wanted him gone for good. If what you're saying is real, it's real. Then we're not just talking about a rescue. We're talking about facing powerful people inside our own military command. People with the ability to hide unwelcome facts. Ryan stood up. Do you understand what you're asking me to put at risk? Yes. Ava met his gaze without blinking. Your career. Your good name. Maybe your freedom. I understand, Admiral. I lost all of those things 8 years ago. She moved closer. But I'm not asking you to do this for me. I'm asking you to do it because it's the right thing. Because Marcus and those hired workers deserved more than to be wiped out to cover someone's power grabs. Because if we don't protect our own, who will? Ryan held her gaze. In 20 years of leading top soldiers, he had learned to understand people. Ava, Natalie, Iron Raven, wasn't lying. Every word held the heavy truth, paid for with blood and years. I need proof, he said at last. Something solid. If we're going to act against people with that much power, I need evidence. Ava pulled out a small data stick, the flight recorder from my F-18. I went back for it later. It took me 6 months to get it from the crash site. It has everything. The missile's path data, the friendly ID signal proving it was our own fire, voice recordings showing I tried to warn the Osprey. She held it out. It's been my safety net for 8 years. Now it's yours. Ryan took the small stick, feeling its importance. Such a tiny item to carry such huge outcomes. Give me 48 hours, he said. I need to confirm this. Call in some help from people I trust. If it proves true, when it proves true, Ryan corrected himself. We'll plan a mission. Secret, with a small trusted team. People who know that some missions are never written in history books. Thank you. The words sounded rough, as if Ava wasn't used to speaking them. Don't thank me yet. This could land both of us in a military prison. Ryan put the stick in his pocket. But you're right. We don't leave our own behind, even if it takes 8 years to bring them back. Ryan spent the next 2 days in a secure communications center, working through secret channels and calling in every favor he'd gathered over 20 years. The flight recorder data proved true. Alarmingly so. The missile's path details were undeniable. The missile that destroyed Iron Raven's F-18 had been launched from a U.S. Navy ship, with its proper friendly ID turned on. Someone had ordered an attack on their own American pilot and her passenger. Someone with enough sway to hide the evidence and seal the files. The name that kept showing up was Major General Robert Briggs, now retired, but during Operation Crimson Knife, he had been the head of all operations in that area. A favorite at the Pentagon with big political dreams and a perfect track record. Too perfect. Ryan dug deeper, using unofficial routes and old friends. What he uncovered made his blood run hot. Briggs had been secretly selling weapons through hidden contacts, using money meant for secret military actions. The hired workers and experts on that Osprey had found proof. Iron Raven had been asking questions about mission details that didn't make sense. So Briggs had removed the issue. 1 missile, 5 dead, all blamed on enemy forces, neat and untraceable, except Iron Raven had lived. And her brother Marcus, a Green Beret working with local fighters, had also found clues to the scheme. So Briggs had set it up for him to be captured during a botched raid, declared missing in action, then eventually killed in action. Another problem neatly solved. Only Marcus hadn't passed away. Secret reports hinted he was held by a warlord, linked to Briggs's old group, likely insurance, or a bargaining chip, kept alive but unofficially. A phantom like his sister. Ryan put together his team with care. Lieutenant Commander Derek Walsh, who had worked with him for 15, Master Chief Brad Keller, who had been on more secret missions than he could recall, 6 other SEALs, each chosen for their abilities and, more vital, for their loyalty and silence, and Ava, because they would need Iron Raven before this was over. They met in a safe planning room. Maps of the target zones lay spread across the table. The compound was deep in enemy land, an old Soviet army base now used by Abu Mazin, a local warlord, who enjoyed taking Western captives and running profitable side ventures. 3 key buildings. Walsh gave the brief, pointing to satellite pictures. Main structure here, guard barracks here, and a bunker entry here. Reports hint important prisoners are held in the bunker. It's basically a strengthened cave system, with metal doors. How do we get in? Ryan asked. The only way that makes sense is by air. Here, Walsh showed, pointing to a ridgeline 2 kilometers from the compound. Low, and quick. Stay beneath their radar, get in before sunrise, hit them while they're still waking up. And getting out? That's where it gets tricky. Walsh frowned. We'd usually leave the same way we came, but if we're bringing out wounded people, or if the mission gets noisy too soon, we'll need a fallback plan. Ava stepped closer, studying the map. Her finger traced the land. There's a dry riverbed here, going north, wide and flat enough for a helicopter to follow, using the ground for cover. How do you know that? Keller asked. Because I've flown over this area 100 times. Ava met his doubting stare. Before I was dead, I mapped most of this land for the military. That riverbed is 40 meters wide at its tightest spot. Plenty of space for a Blackhawk if your pilot has courage. Your pilot, meaning you, Ryan said, unless you have someone better who knows this ground in the dark. Ava folded her arms. I'll fly the rescue aircraft. You want Marcus out alive. You need someone who can weave through that riverbed at 200 knots with no room for mistakes. The SEALs exchanged looks. Flying with a hired worker, especially one who had been dead for 8 years, wasn't normal procedure. But then nothing about this mission was normal. I'm in, Walsh said. I've seen what she can do. If Iron Raven says she can fly it, I trust her. One by one the others gave a nod.
Ryan turned to Ava. You understand the dangers. If this goes wrong, there's no official rescue coming. We're shadows on this mission, Admiral. Ava said softly. I've been a ghost for 8 years. At least this time I'll be a ghost doing something important. All right. Ryan looked around the table. We take off at 0200. Aircraft airborne in 6 hours. Use the time to prepare equipment, check guns and get what sleep you can. This will be a long night. The team scattered, leaving Ryan and Ava alone with the maps. "You don't have to do this," Ryan said. "I could get another pilot." "No, you couldn't. Not for this." Ava studied the land pictures. "Besides, Marcus is my brother. My duty. I should have found him years ago, but I was too busy hiding. Too afraid to cause trouble." She looked up. "I'm done being afraid. Fear isn't a weakness," Ryan said. "It's what keeps us safe." "Perhaps." Ava rolled up the maps. "But sometimes being safe isn't enough. Sometimes you actually have to live." The Blackhawk sliced through the darkness, flying 50 feet above the desert ground. No lights, no radio talk, just the soft rumble of blades and the low purr of engines driving them toward their goal. Ava sat in the pilot's chair, her hands resting gently on the controls. Beside her, Chief Warrant Officer Jake Brennan, the only official pilot Ryan could persuade to ignore the rules, watched her fly with increasing respect. "You're excellent," he said through the speaker. "I'm just okay," Ava answered, her eyes fixed on the land ahead. "Good pilots obey the rules. Great pilots know when to bend them." In the cargo hold, Ryan and his team performed their last checks. Guns, radios, entry explosives, everything they'd need for a precise attack. The plan was straightforward. Drop off 2 kilometers away, approach on foot, break into the compound, free Marcus, and get out before the enemy could gather themselves. Easy plans were usually the finest. They were also the first ones to fail. 2 minutes to landing zone, Ava announced. The SEALs stood up, clipping hooks to the fast rope. Ryan checked his rifle one last time, then moved to the door below. The desert showed only shades and starlight. Ava brought the Blackhawk to a stop in midair. The aircraft stayed stable despite the strong wind. Ropes down. Walsh kicked out the fast rope. The SEALs slid down one after another, boots hitting sand within seconds. Ryan went last, gliding down with practiced ease. His boots met the ground, and he unclipped, moving away from the rotor's airflow. The Blackhawk instantly climbed away, vanishing into the night. It would circle 15 kilometers out, waiting for the rescue call. "Move," Ryan whispered into his radio. The team moved like shadows across the desert. Night vision gear turned the blackness into green tone. They covered the 2 kilometers in 20 minutes, nearing the compound from the northeast, the hidden spot in the guard patrols Walsh had found. The compound rose ahead, walls of broken concrete crowned with barbed wire. Guard towers stood at 3 corners, each with a bored sentry more focused on his phone than the perimeter. "Keller, Walsh, towers 1 and 3, Ryan ordered. "Silent shots only. On my signal." 2 soft thuds. Both guards fell without a noise. The team was already in motion. They broke through the wall using a ladder set up earlier, flowing over the barrier in moments. Inside the compound, shadows flickered as wind rustled tarps and scraps. A generator buzzed softly somewhere in the dark. "Bunker entry, northeast corner," Walsh whispered. They found the metal door precisely where reports had said it would be. Heavy Soviet-era build, made to resist heavy cannons. Ryan set the explosive charge while Keller guarded the path. The rest of the team formed a defensive ring. "Charge ready," Ryan whispered. "Everyone get back." Gunfire suddenly burst from the main building. They had been seen. "Blow it," Ryan yelled. The explosive charge went off, ripping the door from its frame. The team rushed through, guns ready. A guard appeared at the tunnel opening. Walsh dropped him with a quick burst of 3 shots. "Enemy behind us," someone yelled from outside. The compound was now wide awake. More gunfire, this time from many spots. So much for a clean strike. "Push ahead," Ryan ordered. "Find Marcus and get him out." They went deeper into the bunker, a maze of concrete hallways and metal doors. Every room had to be cleared, every corner checked. Precious minutes were ticking away, and each second gave the enemy more time to get ready. Here, Keller kicked open a heavy door. Inside, chained to a wall almost unseen beneath the bruises and hunger, was Captain Marcus Corvus. "Alive." "Marcus," Ryan said, going to him. "Your sister sent us." Marcus looked up with sunken eyes. "Natalie's dead. She's very much alive, and she's flying our rescue." Ryan cut the chains while Walsh checked Marcus for wounds. "Can you walk?" "Can I run?" Marcus said, then coughed. "Because I think we're about to need to run." A blast rocked the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. They're trying to collapse the entry, Walsh said. To cut us off, then we go out the top. Ava's voice buzzed over the radio, calm as always. Northeast corner of the compound. There's a soft spot in the wall. Blast it open and get into the clear. I'm 2 minutes away. Understood, Ryan replied. You heard her. Move. They pulled Marcus up, holding his weight. The team battled their way back through the bunker as enemy soldiers flooded into the compound. It was pure mayhem, gunfire ricocheting off concrete. Smoke and dust filled the air. They burst from the bunker into a living nightmare. The compound was fully awake now. Fighters took places behind cover. Glowing lines of bullets cut through the dark. A rocket shot overhead, blowing up against the barracks. Northeast wall, Ryan pointed. Keller ran forward, slapping an explosive onto the concrete. The team took shelter behind a burnt-out truck. The charge went off. The wall section fell outwards, making an escape route, and then Ryan heard it. The clear sound of helicopter blades, growing louder quickly. Incoming aircraft, someone yelled. The Blackhawk appeared over the ridge, like an angel of vengeance, flying faster and lower than Ryan would have thought possible. Ava brought the helicopter down at a sharp angle, leveling out hard at the final moment. The skids touched the ground. Inside the compound, right by their spot. Let's move, Brennan yelled from the co-pilot's chair. The team ran for the helicopter, half-pulling Marcus. Enemy fire grew fiercer, bullets clanging off the Blackhawk's armored body. Ryan fired back as his team climbed aboard, taking down targets with careful accuracy. Walsh was the last one through the door. Everyone's in. Go, Ryan yelled. Ava pulled back the controls, the Blackhawk fighting to gain height. A rocket zipped past, missing by mere meters. More gunfire pounded the fuselage, and then one of the engines started to shriek. Engine 2 is hit. Brennan's voice was strained, the temperature rising fast. Shutting it down, Ava said, her hands flying over the controls with impossible speed. The shrieking engine wound down, switching to single-engine flight. We're too heavy, Brennan argued. We'll never get over the ridge. Just watch me, Ava. She put the Blackhawk into a dive, swapping height for speed. The helicopter raced toward the earth, Ryan's gut twisting. They were going to crash. It had to be a crash. At the very last moment, Ava pulled back on the control stick. The Blackhawk's nose lifted, swapping speed for height in a perfectly planned energy shift. They shot over the ridge line with perhaps 10 feet to spare, the last engine screaming at full power. Then Ava dipped the nose again, letting the helicopter drop into the riverbed she had picked out. The walls rose on both sides, boxing them in. Ava flew the landscape as if she were born in the pilot's seat, weaving through the rock walls at 200 knots. How is she doing this? One of the SEALs breathed. Iron Raven, Walsh said simply, watching Ava fly. That's how. Behind them, the compound vanished. They had escaped, but they weren't safe yet. The Blackhawk was flying on one engine, hurt and spilling fuel, and they still had 50 kilometers of enemy land to cross before reaching friendly forces. Ava checked her gauges, her face lit by their faint light. We have perhaps 40 minutes of flight time left. After that, we're just floating. Can we reach the base? Ryan asked. No. Ava changed course a little, following the land, but I know a spot, an old desert landing strip from the Soviet time. Desert? It's 30 kilometers away, right at our fuel limit, and if the strip isn't safe. Ava glanced back at him, and for a moment, Ryan saw not the quiet mechanic, but the legendary pilot Iron Raven in her full power. Then I land this aircraft anyway, she said. I don't leave my people behind. The fuel gauge showed empty 20 kilometers from the deserted landing strip. The engine sputtered once, twice, then ran smoothly again on fumes and hope. Come on, old girl, Ava whispered to the Blackhawk, coaxing every last bit of power from the failing aircraft. Just a bit further. The landing strip appeared from the dark, a long band of broken concrete, covered with desert plants. Soviet-era hangars stood like grave markers on both sides. I see it, Brennan confirmed. Looks empty. Ava circled once, looking for danger. Nothing stirred, just wind and sand and the memories of old Cold War goals. The engine sputtered again, this time not starting back up. The turbine slowed with a final mournful whine. We're finished, Ava said calmly. Auto-rotation landing. Everyone hold tight. The Blackhawk fell, not so much flying as dropping with expert control. Ava guided the fall with pure skill, adjusting blade angle to slow their airspeed. The ground sped up, concrete filling the front view. Impact. The skids struck hard, bouncing once. The helicopter settled with a creak of strained metal. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ryan realized he was still breathing. Report in, he ordered. One by one, his team called out. All alive, all working. They had done it. Ryan turned to Ava. She sat slumped in the pilot's chair, hands still on the controls, breathing heavily. Blood marked her shoulder. She'd been hit during the rescue, and hadn't said a word. You're wounded, Ryan said. Later, Ava unclipped her belt and stood, swaying a little. She went to the cargo area where Marcus lay, held up by Walsh and Kelly. For a long moment, the brother and sister just stared. 8 years of believing the other was gone. Nat. Marcus's voice broke. Hey little brother. Ava knelt beside him, and for the first time since Ryan had known her, tears ran through the grease and blood on her face. Sorry I'm late. Marcus laughed, then coughed. You always did have bad timing. They held each other, and Ryan looked away, giving them space. Around the broken helicopter, his team formed a defensive line. They had radioed their spot to friendly troops, but it would be hours before rescue came. Until then, they were alone in enemy land. Ryan checked his secure radio, scrolling through secret messages. One caught his eye. A top priority alert from JCS. General Briggs had been taken into custody. The flight recorder data had done its job. Along with Marcus's story and extra proof Ryan had collected, the military lawyers had moved quickly. Briggs was jailed, facing charges of murder, secret plots, and betraying his country. His whole network was being dismantled. It's finished, Ryan said, showing Ava the message. She read it, her gray eyes impossible to understand. Good. More than good. You're cleared, both of you, Ryan smiled. Captain Natalie Corvus is officially no longer listed as killed in action. You're being brought back with full honors and all your past wages. There's even talk of you moving up in rank. Ava was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked out at the desert, where the first signs of dawn were coloring the sky. What if I don't want to be brought back? The question surprised Ryan. You fought for 8 years to clear your name. Why wouldn't you want it again? Because Iron Raven was a different person. Someone who believed in the system, who trusted the leadership. That person died when the missile struck. Ava met his eyes. What crawled out of that wreckage was someone new. Someone who knows that sometimes the rules exist to shield the wrong people. So what do you want? Ava gave a small smile. I want to keep mending things, keep flying, perhaps work with a team that puts the mission first, and power struggles last. She gestured toward the SEAL. Do you think you have space for one more on your crew? Ryan thought about it. The official rules said no, but the real situation said they needed someone exactly like her. I believe we can make it work, he said. Welcome to the team, Iron Raven. 6 months later, Ryan stood on the landing strip at Naval Base Coronado, watching a changed Blackhawk perform a practice flight. The pilot put the helicopter through moves that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, rolling upside down, flying backward, weaving between barriers with mere inches to spare. The new SEAL hopefuls watched in wonder, as did most of the teachers. The Blackhawk settled onto the pad with perfect exactness. The pilot turned off the engines and climbed out, taking off her helmet. Commander Natalie Iron Raven Corvus, newly appointed as the SEAL flight training officer, grinned at the amazed candidate. That, she announced, is what you're going to learn to do. Any questions? 3 dozen hands shot up. Ryan smiled and walked toward his office. He had a mission briefing to get ready. Another secret operation. Another task thought to be impossible. The kind of mission that called for the very best. The kind of mission that needed Iron Raven. Behind him, Ava's voice carried across the landing strip. First lesson. Fear is a tool. Use it. Don't let it control you. Second lesson. Trust your aircraft, and she'll bring you back. Third lesson. Heroes don't truly die. They just change their code name. Ryan paused, looking back. The sun sparkled off the Blackhawk's blades. painting golden lines across the sky. For a moment, he could almost make out the shape of a raven in the light. Its dark wings spread wide, ready to take flight. Some stories ended with a sense of completion and calm. Others ended with new starts. This was both. Iron Raven had come back from the dead, and she was only just beginning.